Good afternoon, everybody. How are we? So we've come to post-lunch reading, which is with Kit Mallory and Chris Zett. Hey, guys.
Hello.
So have a think of any questions you have for after the readings. We're going to go with Kit first. So take it away, Kit.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm reading from my novel Sparks, which is the second part of my young adult dystopian duology. In this scene, two of the main characters, Angel and Mackenzie, and their handler, Kimura, are trying to escape after a mission that has pitted them against an international arms dealer, which has very much not gone according to plan. So they weren't going to make the getaway vehicle. The nagging wrongness in Angel's chest insisted, and her instincts were rarely wrong. She tried to ignore the fact that they had not been serving her well today. Kimura and Mackenzie hurried out of the service exit into an alley and headed for the main street. As they disappeared, Angel hung back. The alley was empty save for 5 industrial-sized bins. She slipped between 2 of them, readying her weapons. She wasn't going to waste time convincing herself she could do this. She had to do it. The service door crashed open. Dark-suited bodyguards, male, female, slim, heavy, black, white, spilled into the alley. Angel didn't always shoot to kill, but these were professionals. Mercy would be the last mistake she ever had the chance to make. By the time the last one standing realized where the shots were coming from, it was already over. The alley was a mess. She felt nothing taking in the scene she created, but it would take some effort to get out without leaving footprints. Right now, though, that was the least of her worries. Virtanen's bodyguards dressed with neat, expensive anonymity. Virtanen dressed with flair. He was a foot taller than Mackenzie, with blonde hair swept back from a high forehead, and he had slender hands, pianist hands, one of which was pressing a knife to Mackenzie's throat. His sole remaining bodyguard, an Asian man with a deeply humorless expression, was holding a gun to Kimura's head. A razor slash of fear, hot and sharp. Angel gritted her teeth. Hold on. Why hadn't Virtanen just killed them? But of course, it was in the poise of his blade at Mackenzie's throat. He wanted to revel in it, eke out every last drop of suffering. But if he had to do it fast, he wanted to be soaked in it, immersed in it. Just like Redruth. She'd expected the fear again, was ready to stamp on it, but instead it was rage, dark and jagged, that sprang to life inside her. And that was all right. She knew what to do with rage. The bodyguard waited, stony-faced. Kimura was equally unreadable. Mackenzie looked rather resigned. Well, Virtanen mused. His gaze roved over Angel like a promise. I'll remember you. Who are you, little girl? The Angel of Death? Angel said nothing. Virtanen waggled his eyebrows in a way many people had probably found endearing, to their detriment. I think you and I should have a little chat. It doesn't look like I've got much choice, Angel said. He beamed. Indeed, and you seem a smart girl, so I'm sure you know exactly how much I'll enjoy taking your friend's eye out if you upset me. Lay down your weapons, slowly, please, and come upstairs. Okay. Angel crouched carefully, holding eye contact with him. I'm putting them down. Gently, she laid the pistols in front of her. As she did so, she dislodged a small glass vial tucked into her left sleeve. It rolled out onto the ground just behind one of the pistols. There's a knife in my belt, she said. Can I reach behind me and take it out and put that down too? He nodded benevolently. Angel reached behind her, inching her left foot forward. The vial crunched under her boot. She closed her eyes, swung the third gun out of her waistband, and the alley burst into brilliant, blinding light. Virtanen yelled. There was a scuffle and a grunt that suggested someone had taken an elbow straight to the stomach. With her eyes still screwed shut, Angel aimed her pistol and fired twice. The shots died away. Angel lowered the gun, her heart beating as fast as a hummingbird's wings. A Yorkshire accent said, and the surge of relief almost buckled her knees. You can probably open your eyes now. The searing flare of the magnesium had faded, leaving strange, bright after impressions. Mackenzie was picking himself up and still had both eyes. Kimura was standing over the dead bodyguard, looking like he didn't know whether to be pleased or furious. And Virtanen was on the ground, his immaculate suit perfectly at odds with the graceless sprawl of his limbs, a single bullet hole in the center of his forehead. Mackenzie winked at Angel. Show off, he said.
Ooh, goodness. It's so dramatic. Awesome. Yeah,
Thank you, Jen.
I have Sparks on my wish list for Christmas. So
Thank you so much.
so both Blackout and I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So let me have a look. I have a list of questions for people somewhere. Ah, yes. So Kit, if Blackout and Sparks were movies, who would you cast to play the main characters?
Okay, I have definitely got opinions about this. So I think that the stars of The End of the Fucking World, so Jessica Barden and Alex Lauder, who played Alyssa and James, would make an amazing Skylar and Mackenzie. And Jessica Barden's from Yorkshire as well, which is even better because the main characters are from Yorkshire. I think they've got like, kind of like a really nice chemistry between them in the same way that Sky and Mac have. I've always kind of pictured Mackenzie as like young David Tennant, but obviously he's like 17, so obviously David Tennant's way too old. Anthony Stewart Head would be Red Ruth, no contest. I've always had a really clear image of him. I think Zendaya would make a brilliant Faith for Sparks. Angel's the only one I've always really struggled to know who I'd cast, so if anyone has any ideas about that, let me know. Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad you've got like a because I tend to pick like celebrities or actors or whatever to be my characters in my books. I'm currently writing about Scott and Bailey.
Oh, really?
So I've got Scott and Bailey because it's a really good age gap and they're about the right ages. So yeah, Duran Jones and
kind of
Leslie
visualization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. No, I have it all planned out. I just need Netflix to pick it up now. So yeah. Any day now, I'm sure.
It's totally the genre that they do, isn't it? Like End of the Fucking World and like things like I'm Not Okay With This. That's quite a good one as well.
Yeah.
Like that. So yeah. Chris, have you got any questions for Kit?
No, but it sounded really interesting.
Thank you.
So it's other books. So you said it's the second book. Do you have to read the first book first, or is it just like in the same world?
I think you probably would want to read the first book first. I think you could read Sparks as a standalone, but it would make a lot more sense if you could pick up what was going on. But I think you'd kind of you'd get the best out of it if you read Blackout first, I reckon, because it's got most of the same characters in it. So it's a kind of continuation of the story that starts in Blackout. So yeah.
Cool. So what are you writing at the moment? Anything?
Oh, I'm actually writing something really different at the moment. So I'm writing, so obviously it's still very, very queer, but I'm writing something much more lighthearted. I'm writing a kind of fantasy, a YA fantasy romance about a princess with ADHD who unexpectedly becomes the heir to the throne when her older sister abdicates, and the very grumpy knight who is assigned to be the captain of her guard. So they're both equally grumpy about the situation, but it's really I'm having a lot of fun writing it. It's very kind of like Noel Stevenson's She-Ra on Netflix, but kind of inspired by that. And so I'm having great fun with it. It's it's a lovely thing to be
something completely different. Fairy tales seem to be a theme at the moment. Maybe it's because there's a lot of sort of controversy going on about gender and things, aren't there? So maybe that's sparked some people to kind of think fairy tales, yay.
Yeah, I think it's I suppose I don't know how much of I suppose there's kind of some contemporary elements to it. I think the kind of the humour in it and so on. But I think my aim is for it to be kind of sort of really diverse and inclusive and kind of lighthearted, but also about sort of finding figuring out who you are and how to be you and not necessarily fit into kind of what the world wants you to be. So
brilliant.
So more on that at some point when I've finished writing it.
We're getting lots of compliments on Facebook. Dramatic, brilliant reading, excellent.
Thank you.
Cool. So
thank you very much, everybody. Yeah.
So So let me think of a good question for you as
no pressure.
Yeah, there aren't any coming up.
So I have a question. What came first, the plot or the characters?
Oh, so I think the characters really came first. So kind of the whole concept of Blackout started with this kind of so the main character in Blackout is a girl called Skylar, the whole book started with this kind of image of this girl who lived in a cellar and was furious at absolutely everything and everybody for very good reason, because the version of the world she lives in is awful. But yeah, so that was kind of so she very much came first, and then out of that kind of evolved this kind of setting, which is a sort of near future version of the UK, where kind of fuel and kind of power are starting to run out, and the sort of totalitarian government have solved the problem by dividing the country into north and south and essentially cutting off the north of the country. And this is about two sort of northern teenagers who are in the south illegally, and yeah, shenanigans ensue. So yeah, so very much was kind of character led, character driven. Yeah.
Cool. Here's a question. What are you watching on? You got Netflix, I presume. What are you watching on like TV/Netflix at the moment?
Oh my goodness. I'm actually not watching an awful lot at the moment. Just recently, as I mentioned, finished watching all of She-Ra, which is just delightful. And if you haven't seen it, then please do go watch it. It's absolutely lovely. Noel Stevenson is a brilliant writer. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that. Really enjoyed Sex Education. I know that's been out for a few months now, but I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And Gillian Anderson's just like brilliant in it. Yeah, she's amazing. It's a sort of universal fangirling over Gillian Anderson, I think. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. Shall we move on to Chris?
Yes, yay! Very much looking forward to that.
Cool, go for it.
So I'm reading. Hi everyone. I'm reading from my second book, Heart Failure. It's a contemporary romance, and it's about Jess, a cardiologist who just recently became a mom, and she's a kind of perfectionist and workaholic, and after work she decides to go after birth. She decides to go back to work as soon as possible and collapses with an acute heart failure and has to take a step back and move to her mom. So she gets help with taking care of everyday things and her baby. So she's not really the type to live in her childhood room. So she decides to move to the garden house, not knowing that Lena is living there. Lena is she would have been an artist if she had different chances in life, but now she's a young woman working all the jobs she can get to get out of her debt. So this is the first meeting between Jess and Lena. And I missed a chapter. Yeah, it's chapter 4. Lena plucked the mint leaves from her tea and stirred a dollop of honey into it. She cradled her favorite ceramic mug against her chest and breathed in deeply. Nothing was as good as fresh herbs. Some days she couldn't believe how lucky she was to live in Maggie's garden. The door swung open and nearly hit her in the face. Lena jumped back and tea splashed all over her front and soaked her top. Hot, burning tea. Ouch. She pulled the thin cotton from her skin and looked up. The disheveled woman with dark circles beneath her eyes looked familiar. She glared at Lena from beneath unkempt hair. What are you doing in my house? Wait, her house? Oh, was that Jess? Nothing of the beautiful afterglow of giving birth remained. Shouldn't I ask you that? The skin on Lena's chest burned and she tried to cool it by flapping her top, but it was too tight to give real comfort. I don't have to explain anything to you. This is my family's house. What are you doing here? Jess stepped closer and towered over Lena by at least a couple of inches. I live here? Lena snarled right back. She wanted to kick the intruder out, but then it clicked. Jess obviously didn't know she had been living in the garden house for the last 10 months. Lena's anger deflated. You're Jess, right? I'm Lena. Nice to meet you. Maggie rented the house to me. She held out her hand. Dr. Wiley. Jess ignored the hand and stepped past Lena, looking around the room with a frown. My name is Dr. Wiley, as it's my mother's. Come in? Lena didn't know how to react, so she went with her default setting, politeness, even if Jess had already entered the house. If you insist, I'll call you by your last name, but how I address Maggie is between her and me. Can I help you? I don't remember the furniture, so it must be yours. It'll take a bit of time to move all that, so you can take until the end of tomorrow to remove everything. Lena blinked. Was she joking? But the tone didn't hold even a trace of humor. There must be a misunderstanding. Let's go talk to Maggie and clear everything up. I'll change my top and then we can go to the main house. Jess's icy blue eyes moved up and down as she studied her. What are you doing with your top? I burned myself when you stormed inside? Lena held up the empty mug. Oh, I'm sorry. Wet spots bloomed on Jess's cheeks. You don't need to come. You can start packing. Without waiting for Lena's reply, Jess stalked off. Lena followed her to the door. Hey, wait a minute. Either Jess didn't hear or didn't care as she stormed away. The dramatic effect of her exit was diminished by the fact that she stopped halfway to the house, clutched her side, and gasped for air. Shaking her head, Lena closed the door and went into her bathroom to change. As she peeled off her bra, the cotton brushed her skin and she winced. A glance in the mirror confirmed what she had suspected. An angry stripe went down her chest, as if she'd smeared herself with raspberries, from the valley between her breasts to her navel. Fortunately, she didn't detect any blisters. She rinsed the stained top, then pressed the cold, wet cloth to her skin. The relief was instant, and she sat on the toilet seat as her knees grew weak. What happens now? Maggie had promised her the use of the garden house for at least the next year, but now her daughter intended to live here. They hadn't signed the lease because she had trusted Maggie when she'd said her word was worth more than any paper. Just as Lena's own word was worth more than a credit report. Maybe that had been foolish. When would she learn not to trust anymore? So that's it so far. I guess you didn't like Jess very much in the beginning. That's the whole point. If you want to find out how she redeems herself and how Lena can ever fall in love with her, you have to read Hardfeller.
There you go. Awesome. So I've read A Regular Heartbeat recently, actually, which I really enjoyed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So obviously you write medical romances and you do medical work. You're a doctor.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you want to write a completely different thing just to take a break from the medical stuff, or?
Yes, and no. I want to write a fantasy novel one day, but I think I'll sneak a healer in there somewhere. No, I'm not bored yet by medical characters, so I'll stick to it for the moment.
Oh, fair enough. Have you ever included an unusual or odd case that you've really worked on at work in one of your books?
No, not yet. Well, actually, the fact that Jess has a heart failure is an unusual case, and it was inspired by because she has a heart failure that's caused by her pregnancy. So that's really rare and kind of not diagnosed very well, because if it's not a difficult case, the women are just tired all the time and have swollen ankles and are not as fit as they want to be. But I mean, who isn't if they just got a child? So it's difficult to diagnose. So that's probably the most unusual case, but no. So
Yeah, it's an interesting one. My best friend is pregnant currently. She's got gestational diabetes, and she's just like, I am so annoyed because she does eat really healthily usually, and she's had 3 other children. So you'd think that, but she's just like, oh goodness. But yeah, having heart failure to do with pregnancy must be rubbish, especially when you've got a new baby to look after.
Can I ask Chris a question? Is that okay? I really liked what you said. It was really struck, Chris, about what you said about how we probably didn't like that main character very much, and as somebody who is all about the unlikable female characters, cannot get enough of them. I wondered what for you is kind of the appeal in writing those sort of kind of unlikable characters who need a sort of redemption arc. Is that something that kind of comes up? Like, is that a theme in your work, do you think? And what sort of draws you to writing those kind of characters?
I wouldn't say not really, but maybe in my first book, Emily was a kind of ice queenish, like ice queen light, maybe. She wasn't really too cold, but no, it's just, it was just Jess. I had this immediate picture of her in my mind, which was that she was so focused on her career that she is, she's not connecting with people, and she is hard on herself and on everybody else and unfair. And I really struggled writing her. So, but the end, I loved her. So maybe it was worth it. So I don't want to repeat it immediately. Maybe later.
She sounds like a really interesting character. She definitely sounds like someone who would, or would enjoy getting to know.
Yeah, she has a really character arc in the book. So
it's really cool.
We have a question from Facebook from Kristen. There's some German in here. I am going to try and pronounce it correctly, but I haven't done German in a while. I love aus dem Takt geraten.
Ja, aus dem Takt geraten. Das ist irregular heartbeat in German.
Okay. Ich habe Deutsch in Uni gelernt.
I've studied German in university.
Okay. I was very happy to have both English and Deutsch aufhören. Any chance of having a follow-up between D-Dragon and Dr. Barnes? I love the rock star element.
Oh, I think they're like love story is told, but they both appear in a short story in Happily Ever After. That's an anthology by Ilva. So the short story is called A Cat Emergency, and the cat gets loose in the emergency room and things happen. So Diana, the dragon, plays a big part in it. And I think it's still on Kindle Unlimited. So but you can follow them, and in both English and German. I've just recently translated the story, and you'll get it on my German newsletter if you want to have it in German. So they'll appear in future books. I'm not done with them yet, but I don't think I'll really write a complete book just about them.
Oh. She says your accent is perfect. That I can.
Yeah.
Laura Andriotti asks, Chris, what is your language preference to write in? So I guess that would be between English and German.
English. I don't know why it feels more creative. Maybe because English is my the language I read in. I watch movies in, and German is the language I work in. And if I write something, it's usually for work, and that's kind of not creative. So I had a really difficult time to translate my own work into German.
I was just thinking, Chris, that must be a really interesting process, like writing your book in one language and then rewriting it in a different language must be really fascinating. And I guess there are some things that don't translate exactly, and that must be really interesting.
But I think it's easier for me to translate my own work than for a translator, because if a joke doesn't click, I can just think of a new joke. I don't have to stick to the script. And if there's a kind of ambiguous meaning, I know what the author meant. So I know in which way to translate it. But I had at the beginning, I had a trouble finding my voice, kind of making it flow, because I kept thinking in English when I sort of wrote. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, have you lived in England or Britain?
No. But no, I started reading in English when I was 15, and I loved fantasy books, and most German translations were terrible. And they were kind of geared towards 15-year-old boys, and they lost the poetic language and the subtleties. And so I read, well, from 15 to 18 was difficult to get English books, but after 18, I traveled to England and bought 1 million used books for £1, and yeah. So.
Very sensible. So I guess as you watch a lot of English-speaking TV, I was going to ask you the same question I asked Kit. What are you watching at the moment?
Oh, we just started The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. It's amazing, but it's so intense. We couldn't. We thought we would binge watch it, but we couldn't. We stopped after 2 hours, and need to be kind of relaxed and to start again. It's great acting. And I'm a big Star Trek fan, so we're watching Discovery at the moment.
Oh, cool. So, 2 very different things. I've got Queen's Gambit kind of in my list, but yeah, I'm currently watching Schitt's Creek. My cousin was like, mate, you have to watch this, and I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you have to watch this, it's insane. I was like, right, okay. And it's so funny.
I haven't watched it, but I love all the little so that's the question, do you pronounce it GIF or GIFs in online?
do you
whatever?
Probably, I don't know. I think it's GIFs. But yeah.
Do you have a guilty pleasure medical drama, Chris, that you like watching, or can you just not bear any of them because you can see all the kind of inaccuracies in them all?
Yeah, I used to love The Emergency Room and Dr. House, and I couldn't get into Grey's Anatomy. Maybe I was too far into medicine when it started, I don't know. So I think it's Emergency Room. I can't watch Dr. House anymore.
Because sometimes it is lupus, right?
It's always lupus. No, actually, the medical diagnosis is okay, but the bedside manner from all of them, and I mean, they always nearly kill the patient before they find a solution. I can't watch it.
Yeah. The bedside manner stuff just makes me think, if I did that at work, I wouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah.
There's no way I get away with that. What the hell?
Yeah.
Terry Perkis has popped up on the Facebook Live. When writing, do you think in English or German?
English. Yeah. Sometimes
that makes sense if you're writing in English.
Yeah, it's very rare that if I don't find the right word, I just note it in German and look for translation later, but it's usually in English.
Excellent. Any more questions, Kit?
Not from me, I don't think, but it was really great to hear your reading. Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah.
You've just popped up on Facebook Live. Chris, with your love for camping or glamping, maybe you should write a romance of 2 women meeting in the country. How about setting it in New Zealand? There you go.
Oh, I would love to go to New Zealand and do a research trip. Definitely on my list. No, actually, at the beginning of the year, I started a romance set on the West Highland Way in Scotland. But then, 2020 happened, and I had a writer's block and I couldn't write anymore. And now I just can't write about people traveling anymore. So I found a new project. But yeah, I would love to write a romance in New Zealand and would love to visit, so I get everything right.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, both of you, Kit Mallory and Chris Zett.
Yeah, thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Our next, I think we've got another reading. We have 2:30. We have Serena J. Bishop and LL Shelton. So we will see them there. So we'll see you guys in a bit. Bye.